can't get it.
But you see how much kidnappers are taking from victims.
My thing is, government should all the stabilized person. Get that, and I think we get that. The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
So the support that is needed, and once you get the support, your airline people will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning and welcome to the last presentation of the year 2021 Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred and I have with me a long lost and found public affairs analyst, Mr. Majid.
I'm happy to be here. I'm closing the year.
It's been a long while
On this program.
Yes,
So it's a privilege and honor.
Welcome once
Thank you very
again.
much for having me today.
Viewers, we are going to be reviewing some papers this morning, and being the last day of the year, leadership came up with as on its headlines this morning, momentous events that shaped 2021. And on this rider, it says many sides of a difficult eventful year. And the last day said Nigerians take stock. That is on leadership newspaper this morning. Momentous events that shaped 2021. And Mr. Majid, most of these events centered on terrorism, banditry. We had the police gate, we had judiciary, and of course, a popular plague that also passed on. You want to share more light on?
Yes.
For you, what are the most
Eventful events of the year.
events of the year 2021?
But it's good that leadership newspaper, as usual, you won't disappoint at all.
Thank you.
So this is a very good story for a day like this, taking stock of some of the events that happened during the year. Of course, if there is no event, there's no history. So it's very important that the year 2021 is recorded in history about the events that shaped the year. Yes, the death of the army chief of staff was very shocking.
Yes.
I mean, they spent less than a few weeks in office. He gave a lot of promise. I mean, they were a breath of fresh air, and suddenly died in a crash. It's so confusing that took place. Now, the killing of Abu Shekau also changed the dynamics in the center of war in the northeast. It came as a surprise because he didn't die in the hands of Nigerian security forces. He was killed by a rival jihadi group, the Islamic State of West Africa province. ISWAP. And so that has actually aggravated this in the north. It's rather than aggravated because Abu Shekau was like a distraction on ISWAP. It's not the most dangerous variant of the Boko Haram group. But they attack less of civilians, but they share the same fate with them. And so they have become very entrenched in society there. They have become legitimate. They're like a legitimate resistant group. And because of that, you do no longer see the free flow of information between the community and the armed forces. And so soldiers are regularly taken by surprise through ambushes. And the circuit of information around that theater was very commonplace now. But having the authority that the communities are very cooperating with this work for protection and sometimes for sustenance. So this group is a very dangerous one. So the death of Abu Shekau cleared the way for them to actually take over the entire war on the Nigerian state. And going into the new year, the government must raise up and recalibrate our response mechanism to contain this.
However, the government is beating its chest on the successful year with the issue of security.
How can you be successful when you have increasing mountain deaths? In fact, upon the Boko Haram insurgency, the number of deaths in the north.
He gets thumbs up to himself for security and the economy.
You see, sometimes it's not good to assault our collective sensibilities by using power. You cannot command with propaganda. You should record with the truth. Admit it with feelings. You are not fighting a war against a foreign entity. This is internal security challenges we're having. And so there's no need to play up victory when there's no victory, or downplay resources of the enemy. It's an internal problem. So if you downplay it and you claim you are able to over it, it's like covering smoke with basket in order to conceal a burning fire. That fire will burn both the basket and you are destroying the basket. So we don't need to deceive ourselves. Something more has to be done. And you see, there has been calls for a reform of the security architecture. Some are saying say police. Some are saying armed civilians who defend themselves.
That's Masari, governor of Katsina State, has been
I agree with him.
canvassing
I,
for
I agree with him
self-defense.
100%. But I've written opinions several on this matter. I've not my position no. That you need to allow for some level of civil armament program at this point in time. That enables Nigerians to defend themselves. And somebody counter me to say, that should be a trigger for a proliferation. No, there's already anarchy. That's the issue. As people are dying like chickens because they cannot even defend themselves. No. It doesn't take anything to become bandits or a terrorist or whatever to do in this country because the state is losing control of its territory to non-state actors. So why do I have to be caught in between a weak state and a strong and powerful non-state actor and lose my life? So the least the government can do now is to allow people, particularly in the affected areas, some level of regulated armament system, like program that allows citizens, the country citizens. It cannot start with communities. If you ask me, the civil defense corps that has been actually armed recently, let community vigilante groups and other volunteers. There should be a corps created within a volunteer corps created within the civil defense that will accommodate.
We have the Southwest Security Architect and
They are not
also
carrying-
crying out that they are not
carrying
they are
the
not
right.
licensed.
So Amoteco, for example, can be incorporated into that volunteer corps so that under the guidance of civil defense, they can be armed by the state. And the only difference is this: their payments, their armaments, the bills for their operations will come from other state governments, citizens that have funds, charitable funds, and some can actually volunteer and say, look, I want to be paid. I don't want to help secure my community. We need to look into this. If that is, if you want to give blanket license to go to possess arms, let it be done under the auspices of the civil defense. But that was what you created. What's civil defense? So who can be incorporated into it and have the right caliber of arms to protect the environment, their lives and properties. So I think going to the new year, the commander and Trump is just should be to look at more of these solutions and apply them accordingly. And if you apply, I'm sure with time, we'll see the end of this insecurity. Otherwise, if the government does not take a decisive decision on either to centralize the police or allow states to have state police or allow citizens to arm themselves, this situation might become so impracticable that even when you now allow for these initiatives, it will be ineffective.
No, but what do you think the federal government is doing in terms of security that is something good?
You know, it appears to abundant of ideas. First and foremost, let us take it one after the
Everybody
other.
keeps talking about kinetic and non-kinetic.
Sometimes when you hear some of these issues of
People talked about juggling service duties. He has done that.
no, it's not. It was not always about the service chiefs. It's about the commander in chief. The man who was elected to lead. Let me take the issue of banditry in the Northwest, for example. What we call banditry: the kidnapping for ransom, killing of people, and sacking of communities. For a very long time, this government was fixated on a narrative. It described the activities of killer headsmen as former harass clashes. And each time the president is asked, how do we solve the problem? He talks about grazing routes, talks about reviving grazing reserves, and he tries to tie it to an economic crisis that must necessarily end on the dialogue table. Either you create Google for them or you bring the water bill to have access to. So many of these government initiatives, it was like preparing a clear case of terrorism with something that was like, okay, they are like freedom fighters trying to recover what was taken away from them. And consistently for the past 6 years, we said, this is no longer a formal harass crisis. These people are simply criminals armed. If they invade people's farms, they sack the farmers. It happened in Benue, it happened in Taraba, it happened in Plateau, then in southern Kaduna. Now, the governor of Kaduna, El-Rufai, made a very revealing statement in 2016 when he said, look, the killings in my state, in southern Kaduna, is as a result of earlier killings by the indigenous community of headsmen and the children of the country. So this cycle of killing is reprisal. And the people were mobilized from across 14 countries to come in and fight. Now, the question the government has not asked, who mobilized these people to come into this country to fight? Who are these people? What is their motive? I say this because nobody has been brought to justice for the killings in Southern Canada, not a single person. Nobody has brought to justice for the killings in Benue, in Caraba, in Plateau, and other family communities across the country. It's only now that this same set of people are now ravaging their own homeland. People are now shouting from that part of the country. Those who used to say it was for that crisis in Benue are now shouting that no, these are terrorists operating in Sokoto. And the government is now moved to say, and what the president is saying, how can people of the same community, same language, same religion fight each other? It's not the thing at once. It was that the situation in the Northwest is bothering him. Meaning the ones in other places maybe didn't bother him as much as the ones in the Northwest. So by the time he's ready to attack the situation in the Northwest, it has become attractive because you allow them to blossom Benue in Taraba. So the government failed. From the beginning, no farmer has a right to kill Adam. No herder has a right to carry representative of the farmer. The state should have been there to enforce law and order impartially. But when the state started making excuses for these killings, these guys became emboldened. And now, in their killing spree, they no longer respect ethnicity or religion. Everybody is fair game. And because the motive is money, they're making too much money from this enterprise. They are making billions of dollars, much money that they can never make really catching for them. And so the government, wasted a lot of time before addressing this issue as it is.
Because imagine, taking you back, if you recall, in the first tenure we had these Fulani herdsmen killings, but second tenure we now have bandits.
That's what I'm saying. In the first tenure, the attacks were more in farming communities. So the government decided it was former herders clashes.
Yes.
Now when they're now killing fellow Fulanis, rustling their cattle, kidnapping people in the Fulani homeland of Northwest, they now decided to call them bandits. So I'm saying if you had solved the problem of killer herdsmen in Benue, Taraba, and other places, by chance, it would have reduced the potency of these people to go back home now and have to sit there upon you because money seems to be. You see, when you bring in people to go and fight in the former herders class, some other people came whose interest was not about former herders class, but money. Nigeria is the only country in the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa, particularly the Sahel, that you can kidnap somebody and before a week, millions of naira, sometimes amounting to millions of dollars, come out as ransom. I don't think you can do this in Senegal, in Ghana, nobody wants you. Nobody has money to pay. So these people have seen that Nigerians have money to pay for ransom. And so it is the money. It is striving. So for as long as the government keeps looking at it as someone herders class and still trying to find excuses, to the point that they even find an amnesty. Gumi have been telling us that they have trials. There's a reason why they are doing all of this, that they should give them all sorts of nonsense. And for as long as somebody still believes in that thing that Gumi is talking about, this problem will continue. So government has to identify the issue as it is. These people have always been terrorists right from when they were in Taraba, in Benue, everywhere. They are terrorists. And it took so long for the government to make up his mind to declare them terrorists, just recently. But that decision has not been executed. Strangely, the court has given the order, yes, but it has not been executed. And I wonder why the Attorney General has not published it in the So, who is that person that is still expressing doubt on whether or not they are terrorists or freedom fighters? Until the government makes up his mind about the status of these people, they will solve it. When we wanted to crush IPOB, we take IPOB.
It's also one of the momentous events that
they went to Kenya to fetch Nnamdi. This same government did this.
Yes.
So how come we cannot now catch bandits that are operating within Nigeria?
Even Igbo
was tracked down.
Was almost extradited.
Thank you. So if the government can actually go as far as Kenya to bring in Nnamdi, a sophisticated individual like Nnamdi Kanu, how come we cannot capture Bello Tuji and his other colleagues that are terrorizing the North? What is that? What is holding back the full wrath of the law against people? What is it really? So only the leadership can answer this. Now, if you look at Boko Haram insurgency, I've advocated several. It's an ideologically induced war. If you do not put in place measures to reverse that ideology, Boko Haram will not be defeated by bullets. And that was what Buratari tried. The point was making he said to be able for 20 years. And Buratari, before he left, started this religious approach towards its resolution. And that was why the government actually in admitting that this problem has to do with religion. No matter how anyone tried to deny it, they set up the Operation Corridor and the Revolution Center in Gombe, where Boko Haram members that are captured are willing to surrender
Yeah.
and they are de-radicalized. But I'm saying that de-radicalization is not enough for individual Boko Haram ex-fighters. We need to de-radicalize the entire society. It's in the seeds of radicalization we have shown in the mainstream Muslim theocracy in Nigeria. It is there we need to go and reform. As some other Muslims have been at the forefront of this call, if we do not reform our mainstream theocracy today, beginning with the abolition of Sharia laws in all northern states and bringing northern Nigeria to secularism as it's supposed to be, you will keep having this problem because there are people that think that it's a religious duty to overthrow the current order and enthrone an Islamic state. So until you do this comprehensive turnaround in the religious psyche of our people by reforming the theoretical framework that governs Nigeria, no particularly the Muslim North, you will not be able to defeat Boko Haram because for every Boko Haram you kill in the battlefield, you have more coming into the place willingly. And Boko Haram are not just in the Sambisa forest or the Chad region. No, they're not just there. They're everywhere. They have support. They have people that are sympathetic to this cause of an Islamic state. So it's for the society to move away from that and move towards a more egalitarian Muslim society that is in conformity with our laws, our constitutional framework, democratic framework as well. Otherwise, it's something that we cannot solve by bullets alone.
So we also have issue of super cup.
Well, super cup. When you talk about this super cup, there are lots of stories coming out of Abba Kyari's IRT, even before the FBI, exposed his dealings with Mr. Hushpuppi. And so, somehow, maybe because in Nigeria, things don't work well. So when we have people that display a bit of heroism, they become superheroes. The truth is, the media must also be careful, not just to promote people that make them larger than life. How about talking about the super cup? Who is called about time today? Usually would have been just an ordinary cop who has issues that should have been treated in line with the rule of law. So I do not necessarily think that Bakari was a super cop, knowing what I know about the IRT. Yes, he did his best. I mean, a bit of showmanship, they can bust credibility around them. But there are many more that they didn't bust because of.
Many pundits said he has said in Southeast states and what about the Northeast?
There are so many things they didn't do because of the same reason that got them entangled with Hushpuppi. I'm saying this because we should stop making heroes out of villains unnecessary just because of sentiment and the media has a way of promoting people to a level where they are not supposed to be because we are a set of heroes as a country. So anybody who has dealing with Hushpuppi in the manner he had no reason to be called. We shouldn't be calling him a super cop anymore. We should face the law, and there have been several allegations of abuses, of extortion, of corruption, of criminal conduct of the men of the IRT. And for God's sake, the police one should be reformed enough to be responsible to care without creating this ad hoc arrangement that take advantage of the rotten system to make it more rotten. We need to have a comprehensive reform of the police force to allow internal security to thrive without this ad hoc arrangements that not create super cohort of people and SARS. So, well, it was shocking to a lot of people who didn't know the other side of IRT and about the shocking. Something like as somebody rose to defense. So Americans are trying to bring him down. But the footage of the policeman that can actually connive with Hushpuppi against the fellow Nigerian in the manner that he did is capable of doing much more. That is what I took away from the story. A lot, he can do a lot more. And he's not the only person in the Nigerian police force. That's what that cannot be dispensed with. Look, if he's found guilty of the allegations, let him face the law. Just like any other one of us.
Let's move over to the Ikoyi building that collapsed. We also have
It was sad. It
what
was
we say
tragic.
that I think they got approval for about 6
You see,
stories and
That's one of the problems we have in real estate in Nigeria. There's this propensity for developers to want to cut corners and make more profits. Because developers live rockstar lifestyles. They live large, they live big, and sometimes if you know what the little I know about real estate, the profit margin is not that much really. If you do the right thing, it's not as if it's not. It's me, it's just it's marginal. So it takes a lot of discipline to run the industrial estate business without cutting corners. Fortunately, for a project such as the one that we're going to talk with Nicole, common sense suggests that strict adherence to building code would have saved the lives of other people and his own life. He died in this mishap. And if he didn't die, I would have also called for justice for him. And I pray that he should not be among those that died, so I can face justice. But he died. So I hope this will be a lesson to other people. You can be a victim of your maybe you thought you're building this for other people and living and maybe because of them you're not there. It collapsed even on you. So I hope somebody is drawing lessons from me. You can be victim of your own misdeeds if you're not careful. But you'll be the ultimate beneficiary of the good deeds you do. In anything, any assignment you're doing, on your contribution you're doing. But you do it well and you do good, you'll be a beneficiary of the same good you've done. So this should be a lesson to all of us developers and even all of us that are that. Let's try and make right so that we don't fall victim to wrong things.
We also look at the judiciary. Judiciary is not all bad too. We saw the intervention of the CJ and the corruption, like some justice. And at the end of the day, I think that was what saved the day that PDP will have a successful convention without the
People could have an ABGA too.
party order.
ABGA could have a candidate in a number.
Exactly.
Well,
So
that was a good intervention by the CJ, with the chairman of the NGNC. But beyond that, the judiciary will still need reforms. Sometimes we don't want to sound too pessimistic for the system. From the little we also know about the judiciary strength.
who will have to reform the judiciary?
Thank you very much. President and Commander. I'm sure someone might ask me, is he going to interfere? Why not by interfering, but by intervention in line with the rule of law? You see, the
So we saw
president.
how they were hounded.
No, that is interfering, that's not intervention. You don't go and hound the judge wrongly. You look at the processes that flow of judges. There's a window that allows even people to be appointed into the bench from outside of the judiciary. This man has not exhausted that option. There are credible people. There are people that you know are reform-minded. People you know are committed to the rule. People it's for the president to have an interview with, different people and say, look, this set of laws are what they should do. Then he sits down with this chairman of the agency and says, sir, you are retired. We want to live a better country for our children. You are telling retiring very soon. Can we agree for you to nominate people in this category, They will nominate. The president will either nominate and say, okay, or the agency will nominate, or without process. What I'm saying is there can be a tripartite arrangement between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, led by the executive. To say, look, we want this caliber, this quality of judicial officers in the system, so that we can begin to correct the rot in the system. They also look at the challenges we see to show that makes them prone to corruption, maybe inadequacy of remuneration. The senior has complained about that they're not paying well. Look at also how to use technology to upgrade the performance of judicial officers. Because I don't see why a judge in this time is still writing with long
Yes.
So these are little issues that the government can now look at and say, look, the judiciary is very important. The judiciary is the backbone of our democracy. We don't have to stabilize us. So if the judiciary is rotting, honestly, I'm afraid. If I want to know the rot, then it has to do with the election related cases.
Yes.
It's as if it's always on set to the behind the You hear lawyers, it's so
One of
bad.
the Supreme Court said the issue of Imo State is something that we want Nigerians to do.
So imagine how did the Supreme Court arrive at such a judgment? It has created so much crisis in the United States, and it's still creating more crisis. And so the judiciary is to be reformed, and the leader of the three arms of government is executive. And those who fail that kind of constitution give the executive president kind of power to be able to intervene, not interfere, intervene in the direction of good governance.
Unfortunately, we are not seeing that. We saw how one of the Supreme Court judges, Mary of this house, was with them. And not now.
And that's what I'm saying. That is interference. It's like you are trying to.
No, I'm supporting what
Yes,
you
it's
said. That
interference.
they-
But intervention is different. You look at the law as the president. What can I do within this legal framework to effect certain kind of change? If you look at the American system, for example, because Donald Trump wanted certain kind of laws that are conservative in nature, he nominated conservative judges to the Supreme Court. So they can give life to the law along conservative lines. What we have today is the problem of corruption, not only ideologically, yes, corrupt. Let us even have a judiciary first. So I would have expected the president to first appoint an general that is pro people. Because the APC gave me as a pro people government. Nigeria voted for the APC and donated money to the presidential campaign. For the first time in my living memory, Nigerians were donating money as if the way Americans do to Obama and all of that. So we did that for Mr. President. So what should have done was appoint an attorney general that was pro people. That is after the people's interest. That is not after the prisoner's interest or the bourgeoisie. Pro people. Now, with that sort of attorney general working with him, you can now liaise with the judiciary to now reform justice also for people and be less corrupt and be clear for the people to make justice accessible. Accessible, not delayed, because the delayed is denied. Prompt, quick dispensation of justice. Because attorney general would have rolled up his sleeves and worked 24 hours a day to make sure that this vision of the president comes to pass. But unfortunately, that's not what we have. And so we have to set the agenda for the next incoming government. Because this system is no longer sustaining for all of us. We need something that can protect all of us, whether we are in power or not. And this system cannot protect anybody who's in power today and not in power tomorrow. You'll be a victim of the same system that you did not do anything to correct. So that is the irony that somehow we do not level. Power is granted.
So what other momentous events? You want to talk about COVID-19, the variants?
Yeah, COVID
We
started
had
ravaging
Delta, we have
Omicron now. COVID-19 ravaged the country, the world last year.
And people, the economy.
Yes, but there's one area I want to commend Mr. President. He has done very well. It's the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've been constant about praising him because, first, Mr. President accepted the existence of COVID-19. If the president didn't accept the reality, I would live in denial of it. That's what I did. The organized private sector and other efforts you saw in 2020 that mobilized relief for Nigerians, the COVID, coalition that tried to help to ameliorate the impact of COVID-19. Because everybody would have decided to pretend to be on the president's side by saying it doesn't exist, like Bolsonaro did in Brazil, and we have recorded more deaths. Secondly, yes, the president addressed the country several in that period. Even though he promised a lot of things that he didn't quite fulfill, because we now are in the country. But at least he showed good faith by actually promising. And the most important thing he did was when the vaccines now came out, he worked with the international community to get Nigerians some doses of these vaccines. And he showed example, led by example, when he was the first person to receive the jab, so that those that are vaccine skeptics will know, okay, the president can risk his own life to take the jab. He's taking the first, second, and third, even taking the booster. So he throughout the period of the pandemic, the president led by example. His speeches were consolatory, and what then commending him for his very consolatory, unifying speeches. And at every point in time, they listen to public opinion. Even when the lockdown was becoming too much and complained, they eased it. So he did a fantastic job in managing COVID-19. And even the president can repeat this in other areas of the economy, security, that we will be here praising him every day of our lives.
Now, before we go, let's look at the last events that one significant event that shaped 2021, and that is the Electoral Act Amendment. You know, to say that.
If there's anything that is worse than the annulment of Judicial election by the various issues that are sent. Electoral Act amendment in 2021. And contrary to the reasons they given of insecurity, of cost of primaries and all of that, let me start with the issue of direct primaries. Direct primaries are the easiest, cheapest, and best for primary election. In fact, it's so cheap that you don't even need too much to do. All you need to do is to deploy social capital. And people will volunteer to be your agents everywhere. Provided you play the rules, you play according to the rules of you play the game according to the rules of your own party. The problem is none of the two primary system is bad or good. It is the operation of the rules. So, but when they argue against the primary that it is expensive, I probe as a question that most of them forget to answer. Even the delegate system of primary indirect, those delegates that will vote for the candidate are supposed to emerge from a direct voting by party members. So the question is, if you say direct primaries is impossible, how did your delegates emerge in the first place to vote for your candidate? So does it mean that most of the parties have not been doing the direct voting to elect? That means the entire political party system is a fraud. Little wonder why the government itself appears to be so corrupt, illegitimate, and governance have taken flight and left politics to take place. So when people argue that direct primaries is not the issue, my thinking is the president didn't want to sign this reform here. The president has not shown any commitment to signing anything that will improve the electoral system because it is clear the APC has failed woefully in government. So woefully that they have an overhang of incumbency disadvantage going to the next cycle of election. So if you risk having a reformed electoral system that will allow Nigerians to hire and fire, they will definitely fire the ruling party, as they did the former ruling party in 2050 when Jonathan also decided to allow for some level of reform. This government is not willing, it's clearly not, is unable, and will never do that. But the impact of that is this. If we go into the next election with this particular bill without being signed, and we have the same system we used to have, and we are likely to see what happened in Kogi, Bayelsa, and some other places happening across the country. And let me say this. Electoral banditry will become commonplace. And electoral banditry will most definitely result into administrative bandits in government. And it is the failure of governance by these administrative bandits that will continue to sustain the bandits on our highways and our forests because they cannot provide security for their citizens. So contrary to what Balami said, that it will create security challenges beside the not signing it is going to usher Nigeria into an era of unprecedented security if we allow electoral banditry to determine the next of leaders in 2022. So I think they are taking of themselves alone and their party survival. They're not thinking of the Nigerian nation. And they're not even thinking of their own children. So it's unfortunate. So it's an unpardonable sin on the part of the president. Because let us even assume that the electoral command is such a big sin, something is an abomination. The president had the opportunity to have told the leaders of his own party of the National Assembly to say, why not let us remove this one, bring the other person to that side. That would have been the root addition. Nigerians don't actually care the part of the party you adopt. It's not really their focus. What they want is deploy technology to make it more sanitarious, to prevent reading or minimize reading. So if you know that the problem is direct primaries, you should have either at the beginning worked, because at the time supposed to work with these people, do the drafting to say, this one will become some diplomatic, one of the will allow parties to decide. And then, even if they bring it to you, you can write to them and say, amend this portion, and I will sign. Or I will sign in good faith, but please amend this portion. They will do it. They are your rubber stamp. And you tell them they will do it. The president is not interested in reforming our electoral management. It's not, clearly. And it's unfortunate for a man who was a victim of electoral malpractices 3 times, and who was a beneficiary of the reformed one once and became president. One would have predicted that he was the most positioned. He was
and the father is even living.
You are living at if Buhari is living, Madam President Buhari is living in office with 81 years old. What else do you want God to do for you that you cannot give back to humanity by creating a system that ensures justice, fairness, and equity for all of us while you live office? So I don't know how the president wants to be remembered. I don't know. But unfortunately, people around him are not seeing this way. But history will not be kind to Mr. President if indeed he did not set his own legislative agenda for electoral reforms and anything into law and allow us to go into election in this with this same system that is prone to rigging. History will not be kind to Mr. President.
Wow. We want to go on break now. When we come back, we'll take some review of the papers we have on our menu. Don't go away. Just stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. You're still on to Inside Nigeria, reaching your leadership separation. My name is Webo, and I still have with me in the studio public affairs analyst, Mr. Najib.
Thank you very much.
It's always been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we are moving over to the next paper we have on our menu for this morning, and this is the newspaper. On this day, it says Kuka Bishop Matthew Kuka has voiced in support of Buhari's veto of direct primaries. Kuka has voiced in support of Buhari's veto of direct primaries, likens it to how teams select their players. Just in relation to what you just shared.
You know, I'm sure Kuka being a priest and not very close to the political system. This is a clear evidence that Kuka is not a partisan person. People like us that are very close to the political system, that are partisan at one time or another, depending on what we consider as national interest. Kuka does not have the right information for making a statement. Kuka does not, maybe he doesn't know that. Even the indirect are supposed to be elected by party members directly. Now, what Kuka is trying to say is based on the fact that even those that are in the political frame, I mean, even the presidency who should know that if the legislative minimum becomes a political party to be democratic, created an impression as though democratic internal process of the party is now alien to our democratic culture. And that what it said that to normalize the normality of the fraud that has characterized political party management system in this country. Let me say something very important. The most important organ of a party, of a democracy, is the political party. It's not the National Assembly, it's not the legislature. It's the party that throws up the leadership.
Yes, exactly.
If you like, in the process of federal law, this direct primary would have given an opportunity now for us to start a conversation around why parties will not really be democratic. How can you think that the political party that's occupying state governments, government houses, and presidential leaders do not have a complete list of their members? When even Okada unions have members, the two members, list of mechanics do, Aguero have, they know their members. National Union of Road Transport Workers have a comprehensive list of the members. And a political party that that are not to entrust leadership upon do not have compulsory money. And it's something that the parties are saying with glee, as if it's a normal thing. Trade unions, the NBA, medical association, resident doctors, all of that groups across the country.
They all have
Do you know that there are very few Nigerians that are very party members? Contrary to what people are saying. If you check an average party register that is available, there are very few people are not actually members of the party. Because the parties do not have anything to offer really. So people don't, it's not people don't actually come and vote in Nigeria. People are not
There's
actually,
a reason why.
so party members are actually very few.
We saw what played out in Lagos State and even Anambra.
Now,
When they used people direct primary.
now they'll tell you that they did it in Lagos and Anambra, it was fraudulent. That is fraud. That was not direct primary.
Yes, it was not.
It wasn't.
I agree. I
And
was saying it in relation to what you said that many people are not really
no, we are not political minded. But we've done that about it before in the 80s, in the early 90s. What does it take? See, if you want to conduct election, you do your programs, you go around and campaign. On the day of election, by what you want to do for everyone. Members of that party that will you come get a common arena. The agents of the candidate aspirants will just learn to do their time in the name of the aspirant. So, whoever you want to vote for, you move forward, you vote and you give your time to the party agent. So, the party executive represent over their email. After we will collect all the accounts transparently, they'll declare the results there and then send it to the next level. Okay, from this world, that's why I had to cheap, easy. All it takes is for the candidate to be selected. You have volunteers in all those works. We trust this man, we love him. The same way that put to President Buhari in 2015. Okay, I would have said that direct voting that we do now in elections with getting the security of the country as well. The direct voting that Nigerians will find out and vote directly for the candidates. What are we saying? It has no cost to the organizer. It has no cost to political parties. Why should political parties spend money to promote elections? That is the reason for corruption in Nigeria in the first place. What are they spending money for? You see, our parties are actually power grabbing platforms to share oil money monthly. What it would have allowed us to do is for parties to now go back and now structure their party structure along economic, environmental, and security needs of the various populations in this country. What does that mean? A place, for example, in Abuja, you look at all the economic interest groups, environmental groups, security, everyone that wants to be government. You now get them into your party structure. And with the promise that, look, if you are an artisan, if you're a broadcaster, whatever it is you are doing this time, our policies are going to spare prosperity for you. You don't know, you don't make the chairman of the council. Just be in your places. In fact, a promise like tax cut. Just say, we're going to cut tax. For example, it's enough to make people come into your party. Now, when people come into your party, even though you are promising tax cut as a policy, there could be various ways it can be done. So it's that variety of ways that that's what you are coming to argue about. So whichever sounds more sensible to the people concerned, you will now vote for the candidate free of charge and actually now pay him for his campaign, but they want that tax cut. So the parties are not yet doing this. So this would have been an opportunity in the face of dwindling national revenue, in the face of the wrong configuration for our politics entirely, and our leadership process that is deep in the identity politics and pensioning system. This would have been an opportunity to say, okay, let us have a fresh start. Commentators like us and others like you would have guided the party to say, look, why not begin to structure party along economic interest groups so that the party will reflect economic common sense at all times. That's a lost opportunity.
We don't have political parties based on ideology.
This is the basis of the ideology. When you bring economic groups together and they say, sir, what we want you to do for us if you are AMAC chairman is to do this, and that. That's the beginning of ideology. But as you speak today, if you go to all our localities, it's tribal and ethnic and religious constitution that fuels parties. That is the issue. This will be an opportunity for you to start afresh. Unfortunately, our president, whom we trusted as a man of integrity, has bungled without actually knowing. He doesn't know the vision of what he has done yet. And time and chance must always come together to bet good luck. If we miss this chance for the trial from going to 2023, by 2023, we become too irrelevant to go from the electoral process. It become free for all, one man for himself. So the struggle, the conflict, the violence towards 2023 will be intense. Nobody now wants to go. It's going to be a do or die affair. everybody wants to outdo each other because the system is not fair. So it's going to be mortal combat for the soul of Nigeria. Come to 2, 3. So contrary to what Malami and Co are saying about security, not signing this law will put Nigeria into a major security challenge going forward.
Thank you so much for that. From this day, we are moving over to this next, and that is our sister publication, the national economy. National economy says hopes dim as federal government's policies fail to lift economy in 2021. Hopes dim as federal government's policies fail to lift economy in 2021. Cost of goods, services skyrocket. Households income dwindle. That is on national economy. And briefly, from national economy, let's take our last paper today on the menu, and that is the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian says 4 years on, Nigeria lags behind in open skies. 1.3 billion dollars revenue agenda. Federal government operators divided on implementation strategy and prospects. Local airlines lack corporate governance, operation conflict experts. We are back again to national economy. Let's take national economy. Yes.
Okay. Now, you see, the concern we're having this morning actually dovetails into this.
Exactly. Yes. That is what I said.
Let me give you background. You know why not working in Nigeria? As optic capture by the super. You bring up policies, doesn't work. It's because Nigeria is operating as a country of multi-ethnic nationalities. So the person that's going to implement this policy is to know how to skew it from where it's coming from, which is the major beneficiary, first and foremost. That's one. Second, Nigeria is not export competitive. No. You see, you cannot raise revenue. You cannot grow the revenue of the country through taxation or levies. No. It is through export competitiveness.
Yes, national economy did a story that most of the cargo airlines that come to the country, they go back in.
So it's like a family who doesn't sell anything and is only buying from neighbors. So you go to buy, when you bring down broken and buy, you're poor now. Now, how do you begin to become export competitive? Which will have been the focus of government in the last 6 years. Because if the people fail to do what I'm saying now, the APC was voted into the next. Now, first, it starts with your leadership in that process. But what to synchronize Nigeria into an economic powerhouse that can compete with Ghana, China, South Africa for regional marketing. Are we doing that? The opportunity to have kickstarted that would have been a political party that is driven by economics of wealth creation, not driven by broader sentiments of how to allocate resources to this tribe or this one or that one. Now, if we had that good start, that's wonderful start. What it will help us to do is Nigeria would have been able to synchronize its internal potential for global competitiveness. So you will now see a situation where Benue will become a major exporter of oranges from Nigeria. Oranges to Europe. I mean, you discover that Nigerian oranges from Benue. You discover that Lagos, for example, will become a manufacturing hub of West Africa. Yeah, most of the manufactured in Lagos are exported out of Lagos into Ghana, and if you compete for what's bottom by competition, the same quality of shoes that's produced in Agbara in Lagos will be cheaper than the one that was bought in from China. What are those points that government needs to support this kind of thing? Is what one should be doing. It cannot be doing superficial policies. No, it has to be deliberate. Now, if you look at the only aspect of our economy that is export competitive, apart from crude oil export, is entertainment. Have you noticed that the entertainment is the only one that actually produces Nigerian forex outside? So if you look at Lagos, the Lakers of Lagos, that place can run without allocation of federal government because your Davidos, your Burna Boys, your Whiskey, all of them, they do this sold out shows all over the world and bring in dollars and pounds and they buy property there, they write the guys that they have staff there. So let it can run without government allocation for as long as possible. But why is entertainment industry that export competitive? It is the most integrated aspect of Nigerian economy. How? Entertainment. It is in that field we find a Yoruba man that is a proficient Yoruba movie actor. Don't feel that you see a musician that sings Yoruba, sings in Igbo, sings in Hausa. There's a pan-Nigerian arrangement in our entertainment industry. That is, that unity, that integration is enabling them to conquer the world. We need to replicate that across the world. We need a level of integration. We want to see Aba become a hub for Nigerian shoemakers, not just Igbo shoemakers. Everybody was talent to do shoemaking, but what Aba? Then go back to federal government and the state of Aba will sit down and say, what are the enabling infrastructure? What do we need to do to make this place the largest hub for all Nigerians? When I talk about you won't even know you're an Igbo community anymore. How do we make Kano a hub for textiles? Nigerian hub. So when you enter Kano, you are seeing everybody in Kano who has talent, who has to connect to the textile industry. We need to see this level of integration across board that will dissolve the geopolitical structure of Nigeria into economic structures. So they want to now harness this for competitiveness. Until you do these basic things and to take a deliberate political process through a sanitary electoral system, not this type of having, to throw up a leadership that will guide Nigeria along this line. Until we do this, all your macroeconomic policies will end up the way these people are expected. It will not work. It is superficial. It's not real. It doesn't permeate. It will not work. The first thing must be done. You must get your policies right first before your economy can kick off. It's not. There's nothing you can do about it. And the last thing I want to say here again is this. Contrary to this fallacy that government has no business in business, government has full business in business. And what I mean is this. Government doing business starts with efficiency of the public service. You must run the public sector. Very, very efficient. In short, the best brain should be the public service. But with the orientation towards making Nigeria export competitive within an integrated national development master plan, integrated, that carries every part of the country along, that ties the hide and skin industry in Kano to the shoemakers of Aba, through the railway, so the circular flow of income from export from Aba back to Kano to buy raw materials, create job and other value. So we want to see such integrations within for export competitiveness. Until you do this, my dear, I'm afraid we have this conversation on and on. So government has a role to play. Akwa Ibom State is leading the way in this direction. Akwa Ibom has used its monetary allocation from crude oil to establish an airline. Qatar Airline is owned by Qatar State. Emirates Airline is owned by the state. Ethiopia Airline. British Airways is still partly owned by the British government. Now, what it means is that Akwa Ibom has been able to diversify source of revenues from crude. So that airline from Mabuga to Lagos and back. As one of these stations. And it's not only after Mabuga that are living in Akwa Ibom and flying the airline. It is you and I. So this time you fly Akwa Ibom Air and pay them 10,000, 20,000 for tickets. They are paid to the coffers and they will stay from it. We need to have more state governments doing such enterprise first as a means of import substitution, and then
Instead of going to Abuja to
imagine if Udom and the government is able to roll this airline to the level becomes a regional player, a regional, meaning it flies from Ethiopia to South Africa to Kenya to the good of Africa is now paying same way the world pays us for crude oil. So state governments, because state governments are very vital to economic vitality, they need to do a kind of state model. Sometimes we talk about the way government and businesses relate, no more before, side by side, private sector.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manjit. Unfortunately, our time is almost running out. And before we want to go back to leadership. Leadership. Le Vogue, an all glossy, colorful man that's going to be out this weekend. Don't forget to get a copy. It's a lifestyle magazine, actually, and it's an insight in leadership. So,
Leadership is making giant strides. And I'm congratulate leadership. You have emerged in a very short time as one of the leading
I'm clapping.
authoritative, fruitful, forthright. I mean, I'm so blown away.
Thank you.
Leadership is doing well,
Thank you so
doing
much.
very well.
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, this will be calling it a day on today's last program for the year 2021. It's been Mr. Majid that a public affairs analyst with me all the while reviewing the papers.
Thank you very much.
Once again, it's a pleasure to have you around. I mean, really for the people. Don't forget to see you next year. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.